The son of a leading Malian businessman, Mossadeck Bally, has drawn on his father's entrepreneurial heritage to forge his own destiny. Inspired by his father's lessons and also the challenges in the business world, he has forged his own path to entrepreneurship with a bold vision and unwavering determination. He founded the Azalaï Hôtel Group, building a hotel empire that now extends across West Africa. Let's listen to him.
Mossadeck Bally, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us on Initiative Africa.
It's a pleasure.
What were your initial motivations for creating the Azalaï Hotels chain, and how have you achieved your objectives so far?
Well, after my studies in France and the United States, I returned to Mali and worked in trade, international trade, for about 10 years. We imported and distributed staple foodstuff, rice, sugar, and all that. And I spent 10 years doing that. I learned a lot, in particular from a great man, a great coach, a great mentor. It was my father who really trained me as an entrepreneur, a profession that I've now been practicing for almost 4 decades. But I wasn't intellectually satisfied because with a small team of 10 or 15 people, I was churning out big figures and I was looking to diversify, to get out of the trading business into a high-value added industry. That's when I came up with the idea of entering the hotel industry. First of all, I had suppliers complaining about the quality of the hotels in Bamako, and at the time, there were only 2 state-run hotels in Mali. So I drew up a business plan, put in a bid and set up a company, Société Malienne de Promotion Hôtelier, with other Malian shareholders. We bid on the privatization of Grand Hotel de Bamako, and then we were lucky enough to win. And that was the start of the Azalaï adventure.
What do you consider to be the fundamental values of a good entrepreneur?
For me, values. For me, what or who is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is first and foremost a dreamer. This means he has a vision. It took me 10 years to find my vision. I always say to young people, start by looking inside of yourself. First, you have to ask yourself if you want to be an entrepreneur and why you want to be one. Is it just because I, Mossadeck Bally, has become an entrepreneur? Do I want to be an entrepreneur or because my father was an entrepreneur? I want to be an entrepreneur or because it's trendy. That's not a good reason. You have to feel that fire inside you. I've always had that fire. Even when I was a kid, I saw my father and I always had that fire. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. That's why, in fact, when I finished my university studies in San Francisco, I didn't stay too long in the United States. I went straight back to Mali. So once you've done that introspection, you have to have that vision. Everything starts with a vision. And my entrepreneurial vision was really to create a Pan-African hotel chain. And that's what we managed to do in 30 years. And to realize your vision, you need strategy. So you need to surround yourself with highly competent people. And that's what I've done. I'm not a hotelier. So the first hotel I bought, I brought in a hotelier to manage it. Well, to this day, I've never managed a hotel because I'm a financier. I'm not a hotelier. So I always say this to young people. Just because you set up your own business doesn't mean you have to manage it. Or if you have the technical skills, manage it. But if you don't, like me, I didn't have any hotel skills. I recruited some very good hoteliers, the first of whom was Bertrand Boya and his wife, Sylvia Boya, who opened the Grand Hotel, recruited people and trained them. As I said earlier, the Azalaï Group operational success is due to the fact that I found the right people at the right time. It's because I got a very good manager from the start, like Bertrand Boya and his wife, with a strategic vision. After that, the rest is about values and resilience, because entrepreneurship is an obstacle race, and every day you have an obstacle to overcome. If you give up at the first or second obstacle, you are not made to be an entrepreneur. You have to be resilient. I've come close to bankruptcy on several occasions. I've had lots of failures, but I never gave up. I always kept going. I've always said to myself, no matter how dark it gets, the sun always rises. Then you have to be simple and humble. You have to grow with your business, not grow before your business. I see a lot of young people who start up as soon as things start to walk a bit, then they jump on the fast track, do all kinds of useless things, and after a few years, the business disappears. So you have to grow with your business little by little and keep your head on your shoulders. Then you have to be honest and have intellectual and moral probity, because without that, you're going nowhere. And I always say to young people, and I say it again and again, to all those who want to embark on this career of entrepreneurship, your greatest capital is not what's on your account. It's how other people see you. If they have confidence in you, they will help you.
What were the main challenges you overcame?
We faced a number of challenges. The main ones are, and these are challenges that are still with us today. The main one is access to land. In most West African countries, town halls, municipalities, and states do not set aside areas reserved for the development of tourism and the hotel industry. So for the first 15 years, we took part in invitations to tender, privatizations, and state-run hotels. After that, we had to start looking for land and developing greenfield sites, in other words, building hotels. So that was the first challenge, a big one. When you want to start a hotel or tourism business, it's hard to get serviced land with water, electricity, roads, and so on. There are countries like Morocco, the Seychelles, and Mauritius that do it well. All these major tourism countries in Africa have understood that to attract investment in this sector, you first have to make land available and sell it at affordable prices. The second major challenge is to mobilize financing. This is still an issue. Hotel projects take time. Hotel projects consume an enormous amount of capital. We have just opened a hotel in Dakar. We invested 29 billion CFA francs in it. That's almost 50 million euros. The shareholders contributed 40% of that. We have to get the rest from the bank. So that's another challenge. How to raise the finance, and the third challenge is that of human resources, which is also a current issue.
You created training centers in 2015. Can you tell us more about them?
When we realized that there were no schools or training centers for the hotel industry, we decided to set up our own center in Mali using our own resources. So we took a percentage of our sales and invested it in a building in the annex of the Grand Hotel in Bamako. We invested in it. We recruited teachers, a director, teachers, and we don't just give practical training in the trade. We are also training, upskilling young people, and in almost 8 years that this school has been in existence, we have been very satisfied to see that almost 90% of the young people who leave are able to find employment in hotels, restaurants, airport lounges, and with diplomats. So that's a great source of satisfaction for me and for the whole Azalaï Group, because we believe that to be a good corporate citizen, you have to invest in training the next generation and therefore young people.
Can we talk about Mali? The country has a fairly negative image and has been experiencing major crises since 2012. How have you managed to overcome them?
That's a very good question. In fact, I often say when I go to investors' conferences, when we talk about Africa, I tell them to listen. If you spend your time watching CNN, BBC, RFI, France 24, and all that, you're never going to invest on the continent. Because, unfortunately, Africa is not telling its own story. It is told by others, and the others are only looking for sensationalism. So when there's a coup d'etat in Mali or Burkina Faso, the world's television channels go to report it. Yes, when there are rebellions, all that. But we don't talk about the tremendous economic transformation we're experiencing on the continent. The proof is that the Azalaï Hôtel Group was created in 1994 in Mali, 3 years after the coup d'etat of March 1991, 3 years after the end of the rebellion in 1990. So this is a post-conflict country, a country that has just emerged from a coup d'etat, from a rebellion, from a post-conflict Sahelian country. Despite all that, we have succeeded, starting with a hotel in Mali and developing a hotel chain that today has 12 hotel units in 8 countries, starting with a Sahelian country, Mali. So despite the vicissitudes, despite the institutional and political crisis, the economy is still there. The economy is growing. The needs are still there. There are still travelers, tourists, there are still businessmen and women, diplomats who come, who need to sleep, to eat, to meet. You still have a growing middle class that spends, for example, on a wedding, etc. So I would like us Africans to appropriate our own narrative, and I'm very happy that you are giving me this opportunity to express myself on your media. This narrative needs to change. Africa is not just desolation, rebellions, and coup d'etats. Yes, there are problems, but the underlying trend is that the African economy is undergoing a fantastic transformation.
You are the leader in the Pan-African hotel industry. How do you stand out from the other groups present on the continent?
I always tell my colleagues that customers who travel to our countries who need hotel services are not going to come because we say Azalaï is African. We're going to help an African hotel chain. No, these are customers who travel, spend money and pay, often very dearly, all over the world. They want to find in Africa, in Bamako, Abidjan, Cotonou, the same international standard that they will find in Paris, New York, anywhere. A smooth booking service, a warm welcome with a smile, a room that works, Wi-Fi that works, and all that, everywhere. It's the same thing whether you're a European customer, an African customer, or an Asian customer. So, it's the same international standards, except that we put Africa first. Africa is in our DNA.
How do you see the future of Azalaï Hôtel?
I remain convinced that we still have a long way to go. Of course, to stabilize our countries in institutional and security terms. But if I had to go back 40 years and resume my career, I would do it again on the African continent, because that's where the real opportunities are. It's the only continent that still hasn't, I'll say, barely got off the ground economically. It's the continent where everything remains to be done. It is the continent where the subsoil is the richest of the 5 continents. But unfortunately, we have the poorest population, which is an anomaly. It's the youngest continent. In my country, Mali, 70% of the population is under 21. So this is a fantastic opportunity. I think there are a lot of development opportunities for the Azalaï Group, both in West Africa and in other parts of Africa. I also like to take this opportunity to appeal to the diaspora. So Africa needs its diaspora to invest, to bring skills, to bring experience, and so this is also an appeal and making to the diaspora.
Africa is the place to be.
Thank you, Mossadeck Bally.
C'est moi.